A new watchdog report from the Treasury Department reveals the Internal Revenue Service has lost almost a third of its tax auditors. The cuts are a result of the Trump administration's efforts to trim the federal workforce through its Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. According to the Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration, 11% of IRS employees have left the agency in the first 3 months of the year. That includes more than 7,000 probationary employees, people who have held the job for less than 2 years. It includes more than 4,000 voluntary resignations under DOGE's deferred resignation program. The largest portion of the cuts were among agents who conduct audits. More than 3,600 employees in that position, or 31% of those workers, have been terminated or resigned. CBS News MoneyWatch Associate Managing Editor Aimee Picchi joins us now. So, Aimee, what are the potential impacts of losing that many auditors at once?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this was a real push, was to hire more auditors, because the forces of the auditors at the IRS had really fallen over the years, and the chance of actually getting audited had fallen dramatically over the past few decades. And so, what's going to happen is that there are going to be fewer audits because you have fewer auditors, and that means potentially fewer tax scofflaws that are trying to get away with not paying their taxes or not filing their taxes, both from wealthy individuals and corporations, are probably going to, get by, fly under the radar, because there just aren't as many auditors there to manage those caseloads.
So you touched on this, but a Treasury spokesperson blamed the Biden administration for hiring surges. His administration wanted to beef up revenue collection. Was that effective then?
It was. They actually hired a lot of people through the Inflation Reduction Act. The goal of that act, of course, was to lower prices. And part of that idea was, well, if we beef up audits and get more people to pay the taxes that they owe, especially the wealthy and corporations, that we will raise more revenue for the government, and that will help lower costs for everybody. And a Treasury official actually told me this year they had one of the most successful tax collection seasons ever. And I mean, probably is no coincidence that it comes after hiring a lot of auditors. The IRS workforce went from, I think, about 70,000 workers maybe a year or two ago up to about 100,000. And that's largely due to that funding from the IRA. But now the Trump administration is saying, well, we can really do this more efficiently with fewer people and through programs, technology to do the same thing. But, experts say, these tax audits are extremely complicated. You're dealing with multinational companies, very wealthy individuals. And, sometimes you need a tax professional who really knows what they're doing, an auditor, to go in, also negotiate with people and, work through some of these problems that come up in these very complex cases of tax issues.
So could these cuts potentially reduce federal revenue, having the opposite intended effect of DOGE's goals?
Yeah, well, that's what a lot of watchdogs are saying, that, ironically, they're trying to save money, and it will save money on, not paying the salaries of those workers, the IRS workers, but potentially you're losing a lot of tax revenue. There's actually an estimate from the Yale Budget Lab, which is a nonpartisan lab that looks at policy issues and how they impact federal revenue. And they say that if you cut 40,000 IRS workers, which is what the Trump administration is planning on doing, you'll forego about $323 billion of tax revenue. The savings from that on not paying the salaries for those workers is only about $38 billion. So you're left with a hole of, $200 billion plus that you're not going to be making up. But additionally, on top of that, there's the compliance issue that some people might think, hey, there are a lot fewer auditors out there. I don't really want to pay my taxes. I can get through without paying those taxes. I'm just going to fudge a little bit or not file. And so some experts say that the problem could actually be much bigger than what's projected.
All right, Aimee Picchi, thank you.
Thank you.